I know I sometimes ask, what's in it for me? And so you should ask that. What is in it for you as the therapist? I know you work hard, you've got so many demands, the risks that you have to carry when you work with individuals and families. And voice dialogue and the Expressive Therapies Summit is a place where you can take in lots of wonderful information, and it can help you how, right? Well, one of the ways is the way I teach, it's chock full so that you literally will be able to use some of what you learned today, tomorrow when you meet your clients. And every exercise that I offer is an exercise you can literally give to your clients, because as we know, clients really need to work on their own stuff between sessions. And sometimes if you give them something to do, well, like think about making an inner selfie report. That's what I call have them list selves that they notice when they're going throughout their day. Because the more they can bring their own awareness that they got between sessions to the next session, the more effective you can be. And certainly as a therapist, we get stuck. We maybe don't like to admit that, but someone is really ground down in their depression or in their negative way of thinking, and they don't see any other way. When of course there's tons of other ways, but they don't have access to it. Voice dialogue helps you help them get access to it. So you even talk to that depressed self that's immobilized. You embrace that part too. When there's no resistance as the enemy in voice dialogue. Resistance, the resistant part, that's got some kind of bad name. We talk to resistance and not to set them up. It's not a trick. I really want to know what resistance has to say. So in voice dialogue, you move to a different part. If you're doing Zoom, you just move over. But you could literally, resistance could go, if you're working in person, and stand against the back of the door, like just being fully resistant, because voice dialogue is a full-bodied experience. And I will help you get the confidence on how to move to be able to do that with your clients. I love voice dialogue because I always feel empowered. We deal as therapists with really difficult issues, and often those issues have been around for decades in someone's life. But voice dialogue, you go to different parts of yourself. And so you don't have to get locked up in either like some type of power play or some type of constantly feeling you're just going over this old stories and no one's moving forward. You don't know where you are. And with voice dialogue, you can say, can we go to that part? And unlike other parts work, voice dialogue, you literally move to another part of the room, and that part speaks from the I. And so the client says, I'm so tired of something. And then you can go to that tired self, and that tired self speaks from the I. And your client or patient gets to feel the separation. They understand on a visceral level, even if they don't get it intellectually fully at first, that they're not all of the problem. They are flooded with symptoms. They are flooded with maybe even despair or hopelessness. And some of that can affect us as therapists because of course we care, and we wouldn't be in this business if we didn't. Or sometimes we feel like we're at our end. I don't know what to do here. Voice dialogue gives you the tool where you can say, well, let's see what parts are involved, and let's go to that part. And maybe you go to a part 3 or 4 times and new information comes out, or this other part makes itself known. And the thing about voice dialogue also is, yes, you talk to different parts, but it's not just verbal. It's a somatic, full-bodied modality. And so you access different parts of people because they're maybe not even saying too much verbally, but their body is just crumpled in a fetal position. Well, that is so much communication. And then when you come back to center, you can talk about it. You can say, what about that little part of you that was traumatized? And you can just be present with your own wisdom and compassion. And that way, that person, which often is rejecting parts of themselves and often maybe even acts really negatively and harmfully toward parts of themselves, they get to see their own selves in a different light through your eyes as the therapist. And I have seen my clients go so far beyond insight. It's like they are more creative, they're more flexible, and so then they bring their own wise ideas because something in them has loosened. And it's about embracing all of this selves. As we know, our selves were created for protection. They want to protect us against being abandoned, they want to protect us against vulnerability. But if we don't have access to our vulnerability, we can't be intimate as humans. We don't really have genuine expression. And so the idea is you've got to have a safe relationship with your vulnerability. But how do you help a client with that? Voice dialogue. And I have been doing voice dialogue both when I first learned it and as a practitioner and a teacher for decades. And I'm really proud that I'm part of the Expressive Therapies Summit now for over 10 years. It's 15 years old because they're finding more and more you don't even use a large enough part of your brain if it's just about talking. They've done more and more brain research. When you talk from the I versus the third person, like she or they, you are using different parts of your brain. And so when you go to a different self and you talk from the I, from that self, and you refer to the person in center, like in the third person, like I would say Bridget, if I was Bridget's inner critic, I'd then talk about Bridget, and then I would be I as the inner critic. You are literally moving inside your brain when you use the third person, away from your amygdala, away from that emotional center. So even the act of doing it, brain research that's modern is now proving what those of us on the ground have known works for a very long time. And I find that wonderful because it's pragmatic, but it's also ethereal. I mean, there's a sense of spaciousness that you get. And for those of you who like to go a little bit further, sometimes I have honestly had people visit the part of themselves that's a symptom, like a headache or the depression itself. I'm a New Yorker, and so I don't waste anyone's time. And that's the attitude I bring to my teaching. So every exercise that we do will be absolutely part of voice dialogue, which you can do for yourself, but they're actually exercises you can give to your clients. So you leave right away with tools. Also, we're going to be doing a facilitation session. So we're not talking about, we are going to be learning as we do it so that you'll see somebody go to a self. And I have some favorite exercises. I'll even tell you one now, because the other thing that we deal with as therapists is that and really humans, let's be real, but we have cells in us we don't like, and maybe we even mistreat them. Maybe there are parts of us we kind of even hate. And that's got to be brought into the mix if there's going to be healing. We've got to embrace them. We have to appreciate these parts. But how do you do that as a therapist, especially if maybe you've got some parts in you that you haven't quite worked out? So the way I do my teachings is you are free to do them for yourself, because sometimes we learn a lot when we realize what selves in us have opinions and what their histories are. And so that's, I think, really important. And so one of my favorite exercises, I'll just give it now, is you ask, especially a self that's problematic, what are 5 good things about that self? Whether it's your inner critic or your perfectionists. And I'm serious, so I'm giving you that exercise now. But that's an exercise that I won't put in the class because you've got it now. I will put in a new exercise. But make yourself do it. What are 5 good things about my smoker? Maybe you're really trying to give up smoking, but you got 5 good things about your smoker. And it's always easy to come up with 3, but coming up with the 4th and the 5th takes just enough focus that it actually brings you into the present moment. It's even an anti-anxiety exercise, because if you can say, what are 5 good things about your anxious self? You have to slow down, even as the anxious self, usually to think about the 4th and the 5th. But there are always good things, because our selves are designed to protect us. The thing is, sometimes their weapons are not good weapons, but their motivations are pure. And everything I do in terms of voice dialogue in my work is on that principle. So you will have a very good time laughing and moving, and maybe a little dance off is always going to be a part of it, because I don't know, I feel like we're lucky enough to be more than just heads. We've got bodies and movement and breathing to do. So the nuts and bolts are this: you get 6 continuing education credits in the class, which goes from 10 to 5. It's on Zoom, so you can come enjoy yourself, wear your slippers in the privacy of your own home. I have been teaching with Expressive Therapies Summit for over 10 years. It's an amazing experience. And the other participants in the class are a varied bunch of people. So the questions that are asked are interesting for everybody. So do come. It's Thursday, November 6th, and I look forward to seeing you there.